office assistant had just called to tell her the lab results from B. Bennett's recent biopsy. If Doc took a shortcut through the back roads, she would drive right past B's. House calls beat a phone call or video call every time. Most doctors would disagree, but Doc thought a house call even beat an office visit. Especially with this kind of news. When B. Bennett answered the knock at her front door to find Dok Stoltzfus, her stomach clenched in a knot. B's husband, Ted, had worked with Doc before she left the hospital to buy a practice of her own in Stoney Ridge. They'd stayed in touch over the years. B and Ted had even been invited to Doc's wedding to Matt Lehman. B and Doc were more than doctor and patient, though not quite friends, somewhere in between. But she sensed that Doc would let any patient know face to face if something was wrong. That's just the kind of doctor she was. Doc developed a bond of trust with her patients, the same kind of bond B sought with her horses. B invited Doc in, and they sat in the living room, Doc on the couch, B on the seat of the large bay window. "I'm pretty sure you didn't drop by for a cup of tea," B said with a nervous laugh. "So, my guess is you have some news to tell me." "I do. Not the news that I had wanted for you, B." Doc clasped her hands in her lap. "But it's not the worst news, either. Your breast cancer was caught, and caught early." So there it was. Be'd had a sense all along that the biopsy report would be positive. She'd braced herself for this moment, dreading it, yet she felt strangely detached to hear the actual outcome said aloud. She blew out a puff of air as she visibly stiffened her spine. "So, what comes next?" "I'll get appointments set up for you with a surgeon and an oncologist. The oncologist will make further decisions about treatment." "What kind of treatment?" "Those decisions will be made post-surgery." "Doc," B said in a you-know-the-answer-to-that tone. Doc sighed. "Most likely you'll need a course of radiation, but B, all of that will be decided by specialists. You can trust their decisions. And B, you've got an excellent prognosis." B shifted on the seat to look out the window at two of her horses, Echo and Willow, in the snowy pasture that lined the house. Two of her favorites, though they were all her favorites. Doc wasn't quite finished. "You're very fortunate. Catch cancer early while it's easy to treat." B turned to her with a scoff. "Easy?" Doc rose to join her on the window seat. "This will end up as a blip on the radar. You'll get through this. You're strong, B." Was she? B used to think of herself as strong, but that was before her husband died so suddenly, so unexpectedly, shortly after he had retired from a demanding career as a vascular surgeon. They'd sold their home in the suburbs of Lancaster and moved to 20 acres in Stoney Ridge to start an official horse breeding farm, a lifelong dream for B. She'd been an unofficial horse breeder for years, trying to carry on the lineage of Ozzie, her magnificent mare. Ted had never begrudged the costs of keeping Ozzie stabled, or, later on, her progeny. He was the one who found a retirement property that had a barn and a covered arena. He teased B that since she had found a way to collect horses, it would be cheaper to house them than to keep paying their board. Happily, Ted was all in with the notion of becoming a gentleman farmer. He was eager to spend time developing skills for his interests like gardening and carpentry, all the hobbies he had postponed for retirement. He had relied heavily on his fine motor skills for intricate surgeries and took care not to do anything that could injure his hands, even avoiding typical husband tasks like chopping firewood or fixing a broken garbage disposal. The day after he retired from his practice, he went to Home Depot and spent a fortune on tools. Lining one garage wall in the Stoney Ridge house was a stack of boxes of unused tools, still in their original packaging. Barely 60. Ted had just had his 60th birthday when he died. B had gotten what she had wanted for the next chapter of life, but Ted had never had time to get what he had wanted. Over a year had passed, yet B still felt his loss like a fresh wound.